Hello, folks. Thank you for coming to the show once again. I appreciate it from the bottom of, excuse me, my heart, getting over a cold. And I can't believe I get to do this. I get to do a podcast. And I'm very, very thankful for where I'm at in my life. And I've got a lot of great things. Anyhow, today we have Mike Huey, and Mike Huey is a part of the group of consultants that I'm a part of. There's about 900 of us, and Mike is one of those standout guys in that group. And that's how we met, was on a group virtual meeting. And he always has such relevant, pertinent, cutting edge strategies, but really has so much foundational information that is always an eye opener for me. And I'm always very appreciative of him and his positive outlook on life. And so we got to talking and we got to saying, let's do an episode. And so we did it. And here it is. And I just hope that you get a lot from it. I know I did. And it is, there is enough here, I believe, you could probably run with. But again, Mike is available. You'll find the link in the bottom. And I'm very appreciative of you. And Mike, thank you so much for doing the episode with me. It was a pleasure. And without any further delay, everybody, Mike Huey.
Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.
Well, let's do it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you, and so does Mike. So Mike is, we're part of the same group, actually, of consultants across US, Canada, and the world, but mainly those two countries. And Mike's always been that guy that comes on to our events and presents, some unique thing in sales, and it's always a big eye opener. So I'm always appreciative of him, and we connected. Actually, coincidentally, it was kind of just after you had done your presentation on the VCBM 3. And then you reached out and we hit it off. So Mike, you are a force in the world of sales.
Oh, thanks. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it's just the truth. So I just, wanted to welcome you to the show. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. I'm really excited about this opportunity to first of all, just have a nice kind of friend-to-friend chat, over the microphones. But also, if there's any way we can help the manufacturers out there, God knows our manufacturers need as much help, guidance, and coaching as they can get, because it's a fierce world out there. So, kudos to you for this podcast. I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a passion. The whole industry is a passion of mine, and this is just about exactly that, getting some information out to people that maybe they know, or maybe they don't know, but it's just a reminder. There are things out there maybe you just didn't think of this week. So
right? Exactly.
So Mike, tell me, what's your story, Mike?
What's the story?
Yeah,
sure. Well, I've been in sales for coming up on 30 years. Started in 1994. Major old school, smile and dial, sweatshop, telemarketing, all that kind of stuff. And boy, has sales changed over the last 30 years, right? And so some of the stuff, but I have noticed a lot of manufacturers still do the same old thing. Let's bring in the donuts, and here's my yellow pad, and let's see what we can do. And nothing's wrong with that if you're getting sales, but there's so much more to sales now that makes things quicker, faster, and easier. But nevertheless, I've been in sales for 30 years. And in 2009, I joined they were not a manufacturing company, but they were a company. We bought chemical stuff that's chemically manufactured for a floor coating business that was really a small business. They had like 7 employees and 1 office here in the Minneapolis area. I was brought on to turn them into a national company. So over the next 10 or 11 years, I came up with sales systems, processes, recruiting processes, onboarding. I flew every other week, living in different cities, being kind of the Marines on the beachhead, launching offices, and got to the point where we became a national company. So from a sub-$1 million, I think I came there were 600,000 revenue. By the time I left, it was a multi-million-dollar company with offices covering 13 or 14 states and half the Big Ten schools, clients, stuff like that. So then I went to literally 2 months before COVID hit. I mean, it was like, I don't know how, but I decided to become a consultant because so many people were asking me for my opinion on how do you grow a business like this? How did you do that? So I went to for a consulting firm here in the Minneapolis area, pretty big firm, but they sold predominantly to 20 million to $500 million in revenue clients, and it was good. Nothing's wrong with that. They taught me the skill or the practice of consulting. But then about 2.5 years ago, I decided, there's a lot of companies that are kind of between $1 to $20 million in revenue that can't afford this big company. I mean, assessments were, way past 10,000 just to do an assessment. I was like, man, these companies can't afford that. I'm going to launch my own practice. And we've been growing. In fact, at the time of this recording, we just finished our quarterly review yesterday. We had another record quarter last quarter. And so we've just been growing and growing for the last 2.5 years.
Oh,
really excited. And so over those 4 years, that's when I've come across and have been working with a variety of different manufacturers and helping them grow. So that's why I'm here today.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for doing that. It's nice to see other people out there helping the manufacturers. So there's so many questions. I mean,
sure.
I like to talk about challenges, right? And I mean, sometimes manufacturing gets stuck behind the times, and
yeah,
I'm not exactly sure why that is. Maybe, do you have any ideas of what that is?
Well, I think part of it is what I run into is that most owners of manufacturers, they started or they bought that manufacturing company because they really know manufacturing. They really know how to turn that sheet in, bend it, cut it, whatever that is, into the product that they're trying to do. But they don't know how to sell that well, and they don't understand that selling is just as repeatable as that piece of machine going through their laser cutter. It's a repeatable process, but most business owners don't know how to do that. So because of that, they don't focus on that. They just, it's worked. We've sold. Keep going. I'm going to work over here in what I have as an expertise. So that's one of the trends I see in a lot of business owners in the manufacturing world. I think another issue that I find is that when they do hire a salesperson, boy, salespeople can be as slippery as a fish. They really don't know how to hold that salesperson accountable. They know how to hold this machine tech who's running a machine accountable. Are you doing the safety factors you should be doing? What's your output? But when it's sales, they're not in the office. I can't just watch them. So they don't know. So there's just a lack of knowledge there to be able to do that. And so that's obviously one of the reasons why we started helping come alongside business owners, and that's why we launched our consulting practice.
Yeah, fair enough. And I would imagine there's a lot of, I mean, as you mentioned, the systems and stuff that you put into place in your career, a lot, like I'm sure a lot of that translates to now, right?
Sure, absolutely.
So what is it, the biggest pain point that they come to you with? Is it, I know that the sales need to be improved, and then I just don't know how to do it. Is that what happens, or is it?
Yeah, I find it's one of two things. If they're really small, like probably a sub $2 million manufacturer, maybe they're getting started, or the owner is the salesperson and the project manager and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the struggles, as with any company, a struggle that you have kind of up to $1 million or $2 million is different than the struggles you're having to get to 10 million. So just let's talk about that really small manufacturer for a second, because I'm sure some of those are listening.
For sure.
The biggest struggle they have is getting to the point where they can say, I got to get to the point where I can work on my business, not in my business. How can I be the visionary of my company? Because right now I'm doing all the sales, I'm doing all the project management, I'm doing all this, and I'm the fire marshal, whatever that is, they're doing everything. So I think they have a unique challenge that we come alongside and say, okay, let's start walking through this path of building out an actual sales team. So sales is not dependent on you. I think the companies that are maybe 2 million to 10 million, 2 million to 15 million, their struggle is a little different. Sometimes in that situation, the CEO is acting, or the president is also acting as the sales manager and all the other stuff. And, you in the old days, you might not be old enough. I'm old enough to remember when we actually had bookstores that you walk into. Barnes and Noble is still around, but they're one of the few, right?
Yeah.
So to make an illustration, though, you go into a Barnes and Noble. If you look up business growth, man, there's shelves and shelves of books. You look up sales skills, shelves and shelves of books. You look up sales leadership and management, you might find one or two. There's just not a lot of training out there helping CEOs. How do you actually manage a team? How do you create sales playbooks and processes? How do you evaluate CRMs? How do you keep salespeople accountable? All that kind of stuff. It's just not out there. So I think that's the struggle for that that president in that block. And one of the things I come alongside them too is saying, maybe you really should not be managing your sales, because if you're going to be a president, if you got to think of a company that's 20 or $30 million, that president is not managing their sales team. They're managing the director of sales. So how do we get you to the point where you have a player sales leader who knows how to come in, do all this stuff, so we coach them along that route, because we're always trying to look at what's the next step in your corporate growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I found and find continually, it's that I found the foundation is the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Get it? Like, why are they selling something? Like, okay, they want to make X amount of widgets, they want to make a profit on that, but it's digging deeper than that. And I was wondering if you could speak to that, about helping somebody find a why in their business. Like, why are they there? Is that a challenge when you go into these situations?
It really is. One of the things we do, we have one of the services we provide is like a 2-day strategy planning session, where we sit down with the owner and the leadership and stuff. And one of the areas, now people can disagree with me or not, but you're really getting down to the mission of the company. And a lot of people, their mission statement is about as foggy as, a paragraph on a plaque somewhere in the back boardroom that nobody knows, nobody sees. I'm a former infantry, both enlisted, and I'm an infantry officer, so I have both the enlisted and strategy is a major part of my life. I've always been living with it. And we never had a foggy mission in the military. We knew exactly what the mission was. We knew what we knew if it was accomplished or not. And so I bring that into the corporate environment. How do you have a mission statement that rallies the troops? Think of Braveheart, how do we rally the troops? And we know we did it or not. We're not some big Coca-Cola or some, major company that can put tons of money into marketing and get branding. So for instance, I usually have a deadline on a mission, a number on that mission, and a why on that mission, which is what you're getting to. For us, I'll tell you our company's mission, our company mission is to have 25 clients by the end of 2025, because every business owner needs help accomplishing the American dream. That's our mission. So at the end of 2025, I'm going to know if I accomplished that mission or not. And it's got the why. And by golly, there's people out there that are trying to pursue the American dream and they just need some help. That's it. They're not stupid. They just need the extra help. That's all they need. And so that rallies, you can probably hear the passion in my voice
100%, man.
After that mission versus, well, we're a consulting firm that provides sales training to anybody who's under 20 million. That just doesn't do it for us, right?
No.
And so how can we get a mission statement that rallies the person that's running the press on the floor and the salesperson and the admin, and that does it. Then at 2025, we'll just start, did we accomplish it or not? If not, let's create a new mission. And we're going to rally. But people can't focus for decades on a mission. They can focus on a short period of time. 2 or 3 years, we can focus on it. That's it. For the military, it used to be get Osama bin Laden. That was the mission.
Yeah.
That was the mission. When it was done, did the U.S. military shut their doors? No. They don't. What's the next mission, right? So I apply that to the mission statements and finding that why for those. And I can't answer it. I can't tell
of course not.
them why they're why. What gets you up at night? How are you helping people?
Yeah, 100%, man. That's great. Thank you. So I guess, and then we talk about market dominating positions in our group, and otherwise known as blue ocean strategies, and there's
Yep.
multiple ways. But how is a company special, right? Is really what
Yep.
we're talking about. Do you feel that the why has to come first before that happens, or can the MDP kind of be a combination of the why and their uniqueness in the
Yeah.
marketplace?
Well, I want to toss out something a little different, and that is sit down with your ideal clients first. Ideal meaning, not just the biggest clients, but they're the most profitable clients. In fact, I identify an ideal client in 5 things they have to do. So you can write this down if you're listening. Number 1, they see your value. So number 2, they're not negotiating on price. And if they're not negotiating on price, next, you can fulfill it in your sleep. It's not some one-off manufacturing. They see your value. They're not negotiating. You can fulfill it in your sleep. They repeat buy from you, and they're willing to testimonials and referrals from you. That makes an ideal client. What I like to do is I interview who my ideal clients are and find out what resonates with them. What are their biggest problems? And then from there, I can figure out my why, because I want to serve them.
That's right.
I'll change my why if I'm telling my wife you're beautiful, and that just doesn't resonate with me. She really wants me to do the dishes. Well, I can have a great why, but I got to figure out what they want. So I'll make an illustration from my background. We used to sell floor coating in the hospitals, and was one of our markets. So you could think of the major hospitals in the country; they were our clients. And we used to think that this coating would go down, and they would not have to buff it. You see people buffing at night. They wouldn't have to buff it for years. I mean, it was like, put it down, high shine, higher traction, water-based. So we thought, hey, this is sustainable. We'll lead with sustainability. That's our why. No, that didn't work. We started leading with cost savings. That didn't work. So then we said, okay, let's interview our clients and find out, why are they buying from us? And the people said, well, I'm a director of environmental services, and what your coating does is it gets my second shift nurse stopping to complain about the quality of the floors. So I'm not hearing my nurse complaining all the time, and patients love it. Well, shoot, now we just completely changed our marketing message because we found out what the client really needs. And that's a challenge with manufacturing, because manufacturing historically has been like mass production, spit it out. And one of the trends in manufacturing is really customizing about what clients are needing. That's a huge challenge for manufacturing right now. So I encourage you, figure out what the customer's really needing, and now you can create the why slightly different. I mean, when we go way down the why, it's always to serve other people.
Of course.
Somewhere, why you're doing this? Well, when it's all said and done, we want to serve other people. That's capitalism at its purest.
Yes.
But we can decide what we're serving, because that really helps them with what their needs are.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question.
That's a perfect answer. That's really good. I noticed that sometimes there's a struggle of like that conversation and people being afraid of that conversation. And I'm just wondering if there's anything you can add that would kind of maybe make it easier, or maybe how that conversation would go. Like, do they just send an email to ask, hey, what is it that you're doing? Or you want to take them out in person and do these things?
So help me clarify your question just a little bit better. You're asking, go ahead.
Well, what I'm asking is, sometimes there's a fear around asking the clients what their problems are.
Oh, yeah. I haven't found that, because what I do when I talk with our sales teams are we just go to our ideal clients. Remember, they already see our value. They're buying from us.
Okay.
So I say to them, hey, let me address this. If you have clients, maybe you're starting and you don't have clients. I'll address that in a second. But if you do, you can go to your clients and say, hey, we're wanting to learn how we can serve you better. We're always trying to improve. Mm-hmm. We're trying to grow. Why is it you're buying from us? What was the pain you were experiencing before you started buying from us? Why did you decide to go with us versus someone else? What are the factors that are causing you to continue to buy from us? Those are just great things to really learn what that is. if you're a new, or you're thinking about starting, or you're thinking about buying a manufacturing company, you don't have clients, then just do the market survey. Hey, I'm thinking about starting this company. Can I take 5 minutes of your time on the phone? Man, most people, they'd love to help people starting. It's just not abundant people like to help abundant people. And
okay, so
hopefully that helps.
No, that does help. So it's being aligned with the people, and and if they're not right for you, maybe that situation would be a good indicator of that. If it doesn't go well, then you're gonna know.
Exactly.
Cool, man. Cool. So what kind of technology is going on these days that we can share with the audience about online type things that can kind of not automate, because we don't want to get too automated. We want the personal touch.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is it that you've seen that works well in the manufacturing space or in your business today?
What I'm noticing, one of my clients, I can't say their name, obviously, don't want to, but if you go to any Home Depot, you'll see their products there. They're a major company. I'm not sure you would know their name, but you would know their products.
Okay.
And so, but they happen to be based here out of Minnesota, even though our clients are all over the country, but this is one. And historically, they sold direct to, they did have somebody overseeing Home Depot, but predominantly they sell to like woodworking. They manufacture products that go to woodworking type clients. Okay. And so they historically had a direct sales team that was going to all these different, some of them were mom and pop shops, which means, it's really hard. Some of them are bigger distributor or bigger groups, but there's all direct sales. We really sat down and said, hey, right now they're at about a $11 million company. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, if you're going to hit 50 million, is your system sustainable? Could you grow this to 50 million the way it is? No, it's just way too people heavy. And so we've literally restructured the sales team. So we're going to have one group oversee distributors, and they're going to now selling to the end users. They're going to sell through a distribution channel. So we're helping build that distribution channel out. Mm-hmm. And the other will be, 80% of the sales could be from a direct. Distributors can send them, but they go to a website, and the website actually has they're building that website as we speak. That is what's it called? You go in and it will help you. You pick the options, and it will configure a configuration tool for you so that you can configure the tool as you need it. So you're getting the customization automated. It's being produced. It's not fighting the distributors, because the distributors are getting people. There's links, all that kind of stuff, so they get credit, stuff like that. So that's a way to use without knocking people. But we still need our salespeople. We're moving the salespeople over to this distribution management team, and they're responsible to now recruit distributors, train distributors, kind of like the end user, but now we're leveraging their efforts. So that's a trend I'm noticing. When I work with chemical, we still have one chemical manufacturer. I had another chemical manufacturer we finished with, but same thing. They were selling direct. Let's create a distribution model. So let's find distributors who are selling to the same market, but they're not selling your product, and let's start using them. So that's a big trend I'm noticing because nobody wants to just go to a web base and then let all their salespeople go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's really important, the sales team, and kind of back to what we were talking about earlier, and the why and the MDP, communication internally within the organization, and then that turns into outside sales. Like, is that critical, instead of just coming in with the donuts and talking about nothing? Like, is that critical to be having that consistency from the mission statement coming out of the mouths of the sales people?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I think everybody has, if we're all messaging the same thing, what our value is, why we're going to market, why we're here to help you, what our mission is. I have no problem with having my clients tell their clients what their mission statement is, because that tells them, hey, we're actually going somewhere. And when I tell my clients what my mission is, they're like, oh, it's actually energizing to them, right?
Yeah.
And so having that consistent messaging certainly increases the ability. The other thing I'm noticing as a trend in the sales that helps with messaging too is more and more companies are kind of taking the lead from the technology world of having an inside sales team that do appointment setting, that do a lot of this helping the outside salesperson stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that way the outside salesperson really can do some of the face-to-face stuff, but then they're on a plane or a car or whatever to the next thing. While the inside salespeople, they're getting team sold. Excuse me. They have somebody else, and that somebody else is messaging the same thing, is they're getting the quotes. If a supply chain problem is happening, the salesperson doesn't have to call because the clients know this insight, and that inside salesperson can be looking at the whatever your software is that's showing you when the supply chain problems are going to get resolved or what the estimated delivery date is, and your outside salesperson doesn't have to deal with that. They can keep selling.
Yeah.
And so that's another huge trend. But you got to have, like you said, that consistent messaging: why we're here, what we're doing, how is it unique, and what, as you know, what's that emotional trigger for people. For us, the emotional trigger for that one person was get this head nurse off my back, And so when you can get to that kind of point with your clients,
yeah,
nobody else is doing that. Nobody is doing that.
That's right. That's right. And that is key right there. And that's what I find sometimes some people are so afraid to stand out and be unique. And I guess what I was getting at, that's what I was getting at earlier, was like, that fear of, I'm going to be seen differently, or, that sort of stuff has always been something I've seen in my industry. And I guess it's just baby steps, working through it with a guy like you to figure out what is the mission, and then all the steps in between. So like CRMs,
Let me throw out one thing while you're on that topic.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things we do that's really unique, that people are like, holy buckets, how come I never thought of that? It's one of those things. So many people are, many of them are at this ground level. They're not differentiating from anybody. Okay. So that's one problem. So then we show them, hey, obviously all of us, hey, you got to have a differentiator. Okay, great. They've heard that. They're trying to do that. Mm-hmm. But what I tell people is, that's not good enough. You need to look at what the trends are in your marketplace. What are your personal strengths and weaknesses, how you're situated, and what's your plan? What kind of differentiators do you need 3 years from now so that you can stay ahead of the market? And now, quarter by quarter, what's your game plan to be moving your company towards those differentiators? Because what differentiates you today, maybe it's a machine. Maybe you got some cool whiz-bang machine that spits out things faster, quicker, easier with less waste than others. Okay, great. But I can tell you 3 years from now, your competitors will have that same machine. So, what are the things we can always be doing to keep staying ahead of the curve? And that's a differentiator a lot of people don't think about, and they need to. What will differentiate you 3 years from now?
Yeah. I agree. And I also feel as though you should pepper in something bigger than just the tactical, like, mission. Like, what's this machine doing? But it's bigger than that. It's like,
it is.
How is this affecting the community? Is there, what can we do in the community, or how is this affecting our country? There's all kinds of different things that could be talked about there as a bigger purpose of why people are going to work every day, right?
Yeah. So, and if the differentiator is around your client's needs, how can we serve their needs or wants? Could be wants, right? There are some people that are manufacturing stuff for cars that those cars aren't needs, but boy, they sure are nice wants. You know what I'm saying? But how can we do it quicker, faster, and easier? It doesn't have to be cheaper. It can be more expensive, but how can we do it quicker, faster, or easier? And be thinking through, because if you can have the differentiators around one of those three areas, you might not have that differentiator now, but you can start implementing that. This company that I was just referring to, they're implementing this website because they said, hey, 2 years from now, nobody in our industry has this kind of website. So let's start getting that going so that 2 years from now, we have that differentiator. And I think companies like that need something.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's important to touch on it again, and you did, and you have been the whole time, but this is a struggle for so many, and myself sometimes, like being unique. What is the reasoning behind being unique? And why should somebody do that?
Yeah, well, it's the need to be unique is obviously to be able to stand out. I mean, to boil it way down, all of us have been out of high school. Some of us had good dating experiences. Some of us did not have good dating experiences. But when prom was coming up, you had to be unique somehow. Now, immature boys, what they do is they try to brag or show the hottest car or do whatever it is. They were trying to do whatever they could to attract the date for the prom, as an example. Well, we do that in business, right? We're trying to attract people that they're looking at other manufacturers. And so you have to be different. And again, it doesn't even have to be a different product. It can be a different sales system. It could be you look at, to use something everybody knows, you look at Amazon. I mean, Walmart sells the same things Amazon does. It's not that you have to have a different product, but their sales system is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You follow me? And
now, for sure.
And now their distribution model is different. Now others are kind of catching up to it, where we'll deliver too, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't always have that. They were always working towards differentiators. And that's why you keep looking ahead. What do we need 3 years from now? How can we develop that? How can we stay ahead? Because others will catch up to where we're at today.
Yeah, for sure. But they won't catch up if you keep growing and keep changing and innovating, right? So
that's right.
So those unique things, let's take that Amazon example.
Yeah.
The unique things are, the delivery times. You can speed up your delivery times, right? And by a click of a button, you can order one click, right? So these are all things that Amazon's created that actually could be leveraged in your own business, right? Because people have become used to that in the zeitgeist of the culture right now, right? So you don't always have to be the first, you can be me too,
Yeah. And nothing's wrong with leveraging from other industries. One of the things we do in our coaching groups is we have, CEO coach groups, right? Where you get 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 CEOs or presidents in different industries. Hey, this is kind of where we're going. What are ideas you have? Well, because I remember there was one time talking about speed. I wanted somebody to do the fertilizer for my lawn as an example. So I went to Google. I looked at, 3 or 4 companies. I submitted my response. But one company, man, they were back in it replying within 5 minutes of that email. The others didn't respond for a day or two. Well, I'm giving it to them because they're hungry for it. What had nothing to do with the quality of their service or not. The differentiator was their sales systems, processes, things like that. And again, that's where manufacturers are weak. They're usually great in their manufacturing process, not the sales and marketing systems.
Yeah, so let's touch on that. I think that's critical. I'm a student of sales, but it's hard to get across that the follow-up or the timing of getting back to somebody is super critical in business. And,
sure.
Would you be able to kind of give us your experience there?
Yeah, I think you were kind of touching on CRMs. And so let's connect to a couple of those. If you had a repeatable sales process that's documented, you have a playbook, and in that playbook, some people like scripts, some people like bullet points. I don't care what it is, but somewhere where your reps know what to say, what are our talking points, constant, same communication, maybe email templates, stuff like that. But you have a CRM where leads come in from a website or they come in from a phone call, something, and now you've got some kind of alert right away that somebody has requested information. You're already ahead of the competition. There are software. We happen to be a HubSpot partner. Now, I've used Salesforce and Zoho, and there's all kinds of stuff out there. I like HubSpot because I think it's most scalable. You can start from free and you can kind of grow, and it's hyper easy to use. But I don't care what you use, but HubSpot happens to integrate with like a website. And so if a web lead comes in, boom, it can send an automatic response that says, hey, we got your thing. Somebody's going to be reaching out to you in X time. It also automatically can create like a workflow issue where somebody gets notified via text. You just got a lead, all that kind of stuff, and you're on it, right? So I think having technology integrated with your sales process is so key in that. What's really nice then is the president of the company or the sales leader can now go to dashboards and say, what's our average response time? How many leads did we get in? I have one client, I'm just like, I felt like pulling my hair out. They spent all this money on a trade show, and the sales leader is, the president's brought me in to coach the sales leader because the sales leader is hurting, which is an understatement. But nevertheless, I said, well, how many leads did you get in the trade show? 200 leads. Okay, awesome.
Wow.
How long, are they in your software? Are you managing where? Well, I'm trying to get the salespeople to follow up with them. Oh, okay. How long ago was this? 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
And I said, so you're telling me you got 200 leads, none of it's in your database, nobody's following up. Big problem. That's a big, big problem. You follow me? You spend all this money on a trade show, you spend money sending people out to the trade show, you get these leads, and nobody's processing them. Nobody's putting them in. So speed is definitely, our culture is addicted to speed. I mean, we don't like slow. I've got friends that live in Mexico and Central America and South America, and it just drives me nuts having to sit and wait, right? So that's our culture.
Yeah, it is, but also that is so apparent. Like the trade show happens, and I feel like people don't know why they're there. You know what I mean? Even when you go and talk to them, it's like they're just kind of there. And that comes back to the baseline, like, why is it that we're doing this thing? And that needs to be conveyed through a trade show. But 200 leads is pretty good. So maybe they're doing something right, but then the follow-up. At least...
you can have all the leads in the world, but if nobody's following up, you're not making sales, So it's really, really key there.
So with that said, why is it that salespeople are always the first to go when companies downsize? It just seems so stupid to me.
I know for some people, it depends. I want to say it depends.
Of course.
Because I have found one of the very best ways to increase the culture of a sales team, I know this sounds really harsh, is to let the non-performers go their way and to bring in rock stars. I've seen sales teams just turn around when you bring in fresh blood, people who are like, they don't care about how it's done in the past. We're conquering, if it's going to be, it's up to me, that whole mindset of I'm going to conquer versus sales team members who are complaining, well, project manager's not getting reports back to me in time, and it's this person's fault and that person's, that kind of whining and grind, if you got a whining type sales team, man, if I was downsizing, they'd be the first to go to, because it's like a cancer on our in our business.
For sure.
But if I got some salespeople that are hustling, working hard, self-independent, we're going to go, here's my territory plan, I'm going to grow this territory. Man, you're the last to grow. I'd rather start the company all over with myself and 2 or 3 great salespeople, start all fresh than anything else, because when it's all said and done, sales is what we need, right?
For sure. That's the top line.
Yeah. And so I think the other factor that, a free tidbit I'll throw out to your listeners too, is around recruiting great salespeople. There's a couple factors I'd like to throw out to help your people. Number one, your listeners, I should say. Number one is most people hire B and C players. Don't settle for B and C players. Only settle for rock stars. And people are like, well, I can't do that. Recruiting's hard. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a second. But secondly, have a repeatable recruiting system, just like you do almost anything else. One of those systems is I encourage presidents of manufacturing companies to sit down with your org chart and write down, have a space, I don't care if it's in a database or on a spreadsheet, start recruiting for every position in your company now. For 2 years, have a 2-year ongoing thing. I don't care if it's your administrative assistant, a line worker, a salesperson, sales manager. Always just keep your network going. When you go to a trade show, connect with people. And then once a month, call through some of those people and say, hey, how's it going? How's your job going? Yeah, we don't have a position yet, but I just want to stay in contact with you, hear what's going on. Because one of my clients, she's not manufacturing, she's a big distribution company. She just lost her right-hand person, like unexpected. And she was like a kick in the gut. And I was like, if we would have had people already lined up to say, hey, I've been keeping these relationships nurturing, people will leave for people they know a lot more quickly than they will for something they don't know. So I encourage you, watch for great salespeople all the time and build that list, because then when you're ready to hire or you've got an underperformer and you're doing everything you can to get them to perform, but they're not, you can see the writings on the wall, start that recruit, get to that list right away so that you've got somebody coming in and you don't have a lot of downtime. So those are just a couple things that I encourage people to do, is have a recurring system of just constantly recruiting.
Yeah. Cool. That's good.
Hopefully
That's good
that
advice.
helps.
No, that really does.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've seen companies reluctant to have salespeople too. Like they just, because it's a founder-led company and they always did the sales and they're afraid to bring a salesperson in. Is there a strategy there, like to get comfortable with it?
Yeah. Comfort might be the wrong word.
Okay, maybe.
but the way we encourage people to do that, just think of it back like the machine worker. You're going to have different things you're tracking. How often they're spitting out widgets, what their safety record is, how many days we've gone without accidents. I don't know, whatever you track at your business, you'll have things that you track for that salesperson. And I encourage, like when we hire a new salesperson, we produce, I'm not sure very many others do this, but we produce like a 90-day onboarding program so that week by week, we know if that person is on track or not to get through, so that by month 4, they're up and going. I mean, I've used it for space industry people. I've used it for chemical manufacturing, sheet manufacturing, all kinds of stuff. And it works, because going back to recruiting for a second, then I'll come back. If I was, let's say you manufacture sheet metal for the airline industry, I don't know, something like that, aluminum is probably what you're manufacturing then. I'm pulling something out of the air.
Sure.
If I'm only looking in that industry, I've got a really small pool of rock star salespeople. On top of that, if they are rock star salespeople, if they're like A performers, superstars, and they're in my industry, they're not moving from their company to my company because they got a good thing going. They're making money. They know the industry. Why in the world leave unless for some reason they're not getting along with their boss or some, I don't know what it would be, but people aren't going to make a lateral move. So I ask people, how many people in your company can teach somebody to be a superstar salesperson? Maybe 1 or 2, maybe, maybe the president. How many people in your company can teach a superstar salesperson your industry? Oh, there's a lot of people that can do that.
Yeah, wow,
so
that's
our key is to go find a superstar salesperson who, if you pay, I don't know, 150 grand as an example for your sales, let's look for people that are making between 100 and 130. And they're doing great in their industry, but they want to go to the next level. They want a career growth. And in that 90 days, we train them the industry, and we don't even have them do any sales for the first month or 2. They're just learning the industry so that by the last month they're selling, they're getting their feet on the ground. And by month 4, they know more about the industry than most of their clients do. And so that's a recruiting model that works. And the positive for the business owner who's kind of letting go of that sales role, or they're hiring somebody else, excuse me, is if you have that 90-day, week-by-week onboarding plan, you don't just have them do something, you have them show you that they learned it. Don't read a book, don't go to a web course.
Do it.
Talk to me back about what you learned. I want to validate that you did it. And week by week. And if they don't hit something in a week, we got a red flag already.
Okay.
And we can cut our losses early before waiting. Oh, I got this person 9 months. I'm not quite sure they're going to make it. Well, because you didn't have a good onboarding program. So that helps reduce some of the stress on an owner. They have more control about that person. They know, are they on track or not?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to go to the 90-day thing. I just want to add something to that, and some of the things that I do, I see one of the biggest things that happens is, if the business is trying to sell,
Yep.
an investor, one of the biggest deciding factors is how reliant is that business on the owner in the sales position, right?
Right.
So for anybody listening, as the owner founder, if the sales are reliant upon you and you don't have a system in place, that brings the value of your business down, the risk up for investors. So anyway, just wanted to add that.
Brings the value way down.
Absolutely.
Way down.
And bigger risk, right?
Yep. So in addition to that, if you had a sales team, and I've got one of my advisors in my business, he's a mergers and acquisitions, he buys and sells banks and companies, that's his full-time job. He's just mergers, he said, Mike, here's the things to increase the value of your business. And we do, all that kind of stuff. Even if I'm not selling and I've got salespeople out there, that does increase the value. But what really increases the value is if those salespeople are all doing a same sales process.
Yes.
Because now I can bring in a new salesperson. They know the process, they get up and going. And there's other things like the kind of contracts, are these month-to-month contracts or long-term contracts, or, what are the contracts? But in addition to that, if you can also get to the point where you're not even managing the sales, you got a sales leader in place, managing the sales. Now and a repeatable sales process, the value of your company has just gone way up.
Yeah.
The multiplier is just huge compared to you out there hustling yourself.
For sure. 100%. Thank you for that. So the 90-day, so you do that, right? Like you do the whole onboarding thing. So how does all that work if anybody's interested?
Yeah. What we do is we'll sit down, I'm opening the vest a little bit as much as I can.
Yep. Sure.
Trying to help your listeners get as much value out of this podcast. So kudos to you for listening, because you're at the right spot at the right time.
Yeah.
First of all, I sit down with most of the key players that let's talk about a salesperson, because we do it for other roles too, like sales leader or whatever. But that salesperson will say, I'll talk to accounting. What does a salesperson need to know to do their job well in accounting? They need to know how to submit an expense report. They need to know whatever. I'll talk to the president. I'll talk to the CFO. I'll talk to the COO or the person running the shop floor. Hey, what does your people need to know? I mean, one of the biggest values I've seen, we talked about it when I was a floor coating person. I was like the first salesperson ever to spend a night with the crews doing the work, and so sometimes they say, hey, I'd like a salesperson to spend a day on the shop floor, and do the stuff, okay, well, great. So we just take that big list of all the different things that they should be doing from the different leaders. CEO or the president might say, yeah, I'd like them to know how to submit call reports or, meeting notes, or I don't know, whatever it is. So we have this huge list, and then we start organizing them. What's the first things that need to be done? The second, things like that. And we try to leave the sales specific skills. How do we prospect? How do we get quotes out? How do we close the deals? How do we turn it over to fulfillment, things like that. We try to leave that for the last half of the 90 days. Okay. So the first week is, first day is mission and value and vision and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then and HR stuff. One of the tricks I try to do is have HR documents all signed even before they show up, because who wants to spend their first day in an HR department?
Nobody.
That's not fun.
No.
And so getting it done ahead of time locks that person in that they're going to show up. So then we just start placing them on time blocks throughout those 90 days, all the different things they have to do. Mm-hmm. And then on Fridays, we also have a space where they have to prove that they've actually done it, whatever that is, So as an example, one company, they said, I'd like the salesperson to spend 10 to 15 minutes with every person in our company learning what everybody's role is. Okay, great. All right. So by Friday, what we had is that salesperson has to give a presentation to the president of the company on everybody in their company and where they're strong, where they're weak, what they're doing, all that kind of stuff, so that we validated they learned it. That's a simple example.
Yeah.
You know,
That's good.
but if you've got something maybe in the industry that they have to go to an online course to learn something about your manufacturing process, or you've got internal stuff, well, have them report back or give a presentation back or demonstrate that they actually learned and know that, versus, yep, I went through the course, but I was drinking coffee talking with my wife while I was going through the course too. You know, you don't want that.
No.
So, does that help you with that 90-day?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So,
yep.
Do you want to tell people where they can do that? Are you open to new clients right now? Or
Oh yeah, sure. I'll give you the link to my website, which is Scalable Sales Solutions. It's all one, it's all one word, scalable, SCALABLE, and then sales, SALES, and solutions, SOLUTIONS.com. That's the website. Or they could call our office. Our office is 763-299-4429. So 763-299-4429. That, give us a call. We'll answer it and try to schedule. Usually what we do is we schedule just 10 or 15 minutes with people, find out what you're looking for, what you're needing. If we don't help you, we try to direct you to what would help you. And if it does make sense, then we'll maybe look at have a deeper dive for an hour and a half with you and kind of go from there.
Cool, man. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I hope somebody takes advantage of that, because it's clear your passion is there, man. I love it. That's good.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Very kind of you. I've enjoyed being on your podcast. I really look forward to hearing it live, and we'll definitely share it with our manufacturing clients and see if we can help you continue to expand your listenership.
Well, thank you very much. That's always welcomed.
Yeah. Let me give one final comment to your. Are we almost done here?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, but go ahead.
Yeah, I want to give one more final encouragement to your listeners out there.
Thank you.
You're listening to this, and I know you're doing so much. You're working long hours. You've been struggling. You're kind of like, come on, why me? Oh man, I'm just, you kind of get this in you. And I'm telling you, I know it's tough. You got global competition going against you. You got all this stuff happening. I'm members of Central Minnesota Manufacturers Association. I'm hanging around manufacturers all the time. It's tough out there. I know it, but I'm telling you, hang in there. Keep pushing hard. Keep improving. The biggest thing is for you to keep listening to podcasts like this. Read books. If coaching helps you, get it. But I'm telling you, there are people that can sell their businesses for tens of millions of dollars, and you can be one of those people. You really, really can. But we got to be working. We got to help you get to the point where you're working on your business, not in your business. And so everybody wants to be here to cheer you on, help you, give you the resources. So hang in there, and let's keep going.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. My last question was going to be, what's your advice to the audience? But I don't need to ask it now. You beat me to it. So.
Yeah, keep learning, keep improving. Whatever that is, books, courses, coaches, podcasts, whatever that is.
Absolutely, man. There's all kinds of information out there. So you heard it, folks. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure to me.
All right, man. Well, I will let you know when it comes out, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Mike.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Okay, bye. Greg Sheldon here, your host of Metal, Steel, Manufacturing, and Business Pro podcast, where you learn everything about the metals and manufacturing industry that make your modern day life possible.